Hi, so we're going to continue our lessons on Proverbs, and now we are coming up to verse 10. Verse 10 of Proverbs, and let me just make sure that my program is working here and I have my Bible app open. Alright, so let's take a look here. You should be able to see Proverbs. Proverbs Chapter 1 verse 10. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. My son, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. Now, looking at that verse, there's a lot more in this section that we're going to get into. But just looking at that verse, I realized that I just want to stop and park on that verse just for a minute, just because of how important that verse is in the Christian life. If sinners entice thee, consent thou not. So let's talk about that verse. First of all, I really benefited. I have to give credit where credit is due. I really benefited from Charles Bridges' commentary on Proverbs. This is it right here, if you can see that. And some of the things he points out some good cross-references. And so one of these I want to look at in terms of sinners enticing others is Proverbs 16 verse 29. Proverbs 16 verse 29. Let's go over there real quick. So Proverbs 16 and 29. A violent man enticeth his neighbor, and leadeth him into the way that is not good. So, actually the verses surrounding this really have a lot too about the way it works is when Satan has someone in bondage, it is just natural for them to want to bring other people into bondage as well. When a person is overcome by Satan's deceptions and lies, they want to bring others. They want to draw others into that same temptation or that same wickedness. If you go to Proverbs 11 verse 4, Genesis 11 verse 4. This is the passage about the Tower of Babel. God had told the people on the earth, he had commanded them to spread out and populate, fill the earth. But here you have them rebelling instead of spreading out. Verse 3 says, they said one to another, go to, let us make brick and burn them thoroughly. And they had brick for stone and slime had they for mortar. And verse 4, look at this. And they said, go to, let us build us a city and a tower whose top may reach unto heaven. And let us make us a name, lest we be scattered abroad upon the face of the whole earth. And so here you have some sinners get a bright idea to defy God and build this great tower to reach unto heaven. And there is an enticement to it. It's a tower. It's going to reach unto heaven, and we're going to make a great name for ourselves. We're going to be somebody. We're going to make a reputation. And of course, that's one of Satan's strong temptations. And so, right there, you have the enticement of sinners. And then another reference that Charles Bridges brings up in his commentary, Numbers 31:16. This is talking about when Balaam, let me find it, 31:16, when Balaam the prophet, who loved the wages of unrighteousness, who basically came up with a plan. He couldn't curse Israel because Israel was blessed of God, so instead he found a workaround. He decided to counsel the Midianite women to go into Israel's camp and seduce the men into sexual sin. And by this, Balaam knew that if he could cause the Israelites to sin against God, then they would lose, obviously, God's protection and blessing to an extent. So here it says, behold, these, talking about the women, caused the children of Israel through the counsel of Balaam to commit trespass against the Lord in the matter of Peor, and there was a plague among the congregation of the Lord. See, there were blessings for Israel's obedience, and there were curses for disobedience. You can read about that in Deuteronomy 28, Leviticus 26. And so Balaam counseled these women to go in and seduce the men And it says even in Psalms, they seduce the men into sacrificing to false gods. So very serious sin at Peor. Um, and so there was the enticement of these women, right? If you go over to Proverbs Chapter 7, I'm going to cut back here. Okay, so I'm just going to read Proverbs Chapter 7. This is one of the best passages having to do with enticement of sinners. So Proverbs 7 verse 6, we have the adulteress. It says, "For at the window of my house I looked through my casement, and beheld among the simple ones, I discerned among the youths a young man void of understanding, passing through the street near her corner, and he went the way to her house." He shouldn't have been passing near her corner. That was a mistake. "In the twilight, in the evening, in the black and dark night." You see the progression there. It's twilight, evening, the black, dark night. So it's getting later and later. He should be at home, but he's staying out. Why? Why is he wandering around near this woman's corner? "And behold, there met him a woman with the attire of a harlot, and subtle of heart. She is loud and stubborn. Her feet abide not in her house. Now is she without, now in the streets, and lieth in wait at every corner." So it says he was near her corner, but apparently her corner is every corner, because she lies in wait at every corner. So she's just wandering around looking. She won't stay at home. And then it actually says in the Bible, in another place in Proverbs, the adulteress hunts for the precious life. So verse 13, "She caught him and kissed him, and with an impudent face said unto him, I have peace offerings with me. This day have I paid my vows. Therefore came I forth to meet thee, diligently to seek thy face, and I have found thee." She wasn't seeking him. She was wandering from corner to corner. "I have decked my bed with coverings of tapestry, with carved works, with fine linen of Egypt." So here is the seduction, okay? Remember our verse, "If sinners entice thee, consent thou not. Come, let us take our fill of love until the morning. Let us solace ourselves with loves. For the goodman is not at home. He is gone on a long journey." You know how often Christians can be led to sin because they think of Christ as being away on a long journey. You remember the parable where the wicked servant says, "Well, my master has delayed," and he begins to eat and drink with the drunkard. So the goodman is not at home. He's on a long journey. He hath taken a bag of money with him, and will come at the day appointed. With her much fair speech, there it is, seduction, sophistry, speech, she caused him to yield. With the flattering of her lips she forced him. There's flattery. He goeth after her straightway, as an ox goeth to the slaughter, or as a fool to the correction of the stocks, till a dart strike through his liver, as a bird hasteth to the snare, and knoweth not that it was for his life. So there's the passage. And, don't just think about, remember, there's two women in Proverbs. There's the wise woman calling from the gates, calling out to the simple to learn wisdom, and then there's the wicked adulteress. And these women reappear throughout the book. It's kind of these themes throughout the book. But just don't think of it as just sexual sin or just a woman. Think of the principles here for all sin, the enticement of any sin. "If sinners entice thee, consent thou not." Now, of course, Joseph is an example of the right response to temptation. We see this in Genesis chapter 39, starting at verse 7. And so I'll read there in Genesis 39. "And it came to pass after these things that Joseph's master's wife cast her eyes upon Joseph, and she said, Lie with me. But he refused." There's the right response, refusal. "And said unto his master's wife, Behold, my master wotteth not what is with me in the house, and he hath committed all that he hath to my hand." See, he's reasoning. He's using his mind. He's not, just following passion. "There is none greater in this house than I, neither hath he kept back anything from me but thee." Man, if only Adam and Eve had thought that way in the Garden of Eden. If only Eve had said to Satan, God hasn't kept anything back except for this tree of the knowledge of good and evil. How could I sin against him? But she didn't think that way. But Joseph did. See? This is wisdom right here. This is wisdom we're getting. So he's not kept back anything from me, because thou art his wife. How then can I do this great wickedness and sin against God? See, he's calling sin what it is. He's calling sin wickedness. You call it hatred of God. Call it devil worship. That's sin. Calling sin what it is, that'll help you a long way to avoid temptation. "And it came to pass, as she spake to Joseph day by day," see, it's continual temptation, day by day, that he hearkened not, didn't listen to her, to lie by her or to be with her. See, he wasn't like the man in Proverbs who's going around at night, wandering around looking for her corner, the adulteress's corner. He says he wouldn't even. Joseph would not even be with her. And it came to pass about this time that Joseph went into the house to do his business, and there was none of the other men in the house there within. And here's the trap. She caught him by his garment, saying, "Lie with me." And here's the important part we want to focus on. Okay, he did not consent. What did he do? He left his garment in her hand and fled and got him out. That's why the Bible says, flee fornication, flee sexual immorality. That's the right response. James 4:7 says, resist the devil and he will flee from you. So, resist it, but what you definitely don't want to do is consent. See, if sinners entice thee, consent thou not. To consent, that word, it means to acquiesce, okay? It means approbation. It means that there's an agreement. There's an agreement there, okay? So, refuse, resist, and refuse, and flee. All right, so I have more notes, but I've taken all my time, or these are going to be ridiculously long. So that's enough to chew on for now. If sinners entice thee, consent thou not. Resist the devil and flee from temptation. Stay far away from it. Don't go near the corner. The Romans says, make no provision for the flesh. Thanks, and I'll catch you next time I make one of these videos, hopefully soon. We'll continue our study through Proverbs. God bless.